Yes, it's me in English. Surprise, surprise. Anyways, yeah. Uh, like everybody knows, at least who might be watching this video, you've seen the other videos on my profile. I've been recording something that seems to be a podcast with my friends here in Houston. And I figured it was weird because there's a lot of my English speaking friends who don't know exactly what I'm talking about and who also want to be part of the fun. So I figured this is the place. This is the place, Get at me. Let me know. Send me an inbox, a DM. I want to know what you're doing with your life. Let's catch up. You know what I'm saying? Huh? Huh? Let's have a couple laughs and giggles. anyways, the next video, the first video is with my friend Josh from college at Littauer. Yes, he's become an interesting person over the years. Yeah. Anyways, I've been talking too much. Just watch the video. Leave a like and a comment or something, okay? And don't comment about those shoes. That's none of your business. None of your business. There you go. Perfect.
All right, we're on.
All right. Let's let's redo the introduction. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Perfect. I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. It's been a long time. It's been a
It
long time.
has.
How many years now since we last met?
Oh, it's probably been 4 years or so.
Oh
Probably
yeah.
2015, 2016 is last time we chatted. But it's good to see that you're doing well and you're really getting out and helping the community. So I'm
Oh
grateful for the work that you're doing and excited to see where you guys take it.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think for my birthday, yeah, for my birthday, I posted a funny picture, and you gave me a birthday wish, and that was a very good surprise to like hear from you. And we started talking in inbox,
Hmm.
and we decided that'd be a great idea to have this podcast, and I figured it was a great opportunity to get
Hmm.
an outside voice to kind of discuss some of the questions that we ask each other within at least my community down here.
Yep.
So
Yep.
the organization's name is CGH.
Hmm.
It's uh, it's basically a small community that was developed for international students from Gabon to try to help them kind of navigate the whole process of being a student in the States, living abroad, facing the different challenges
Yeah.
that they may encounter, and also kind of give them kind of a blueprint when it comes to setting themselves up for the future,
Hmm.
whether they want to go in the industry or become entrepreneurs. So I figured, hey, I'll come to you and ask every question I have.
Well, I'm here for it. I am here to answer. So whatever I can do to help your community, I'm certainly here for. I love getting out and helping people. And so hopefully we can provide some real value today.
Perfect, perfect. So if you can shortly introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah. So my name is Josh Littauer, and I'm a financial professional with a firm called Wealth Wave. We are the How Money Works company. So we teach people how money works, and we help them walk through 7 money milestones for creating financial success in their own life, right? And that starts with the very basic concepts of budgeting and learning to save, creating emergency funds, and then understanding how compound interest works and beginning an investment plan, getting your family properly protected, even increasing cash flow, and then growing wealth and building a long-term legacy for you and your family. So that's a fairly condensed version of what we do. But really, we want to start with education, and we really want to start with helping people understand the basics of how money works, so that you can then take those concepts and apply them to your life, and then really help improve your personal financial situation, and then even improve the financial situation of you and your family long term, right? What we do now There's an old Marcus Aurelius quote, if you're familiar with the movie Gladiator, what we do in life echoes in eternity, right? And so we find that very true, even in the money world. There's the habits and systems you build right now affect not just you and your family, but decades and generations to come after that. And so that's why we're so passionate about what we do, is we really feel like if we can give you the education, the tools to then go out and change your financial condition, you can do that for your family, and not just this generation, but the generations to come too.
Okay. I like that. I like that. So let me just jump right into the mix of my questions. Uh, I have the usual profile of the student who comes here to study is usually a middle class young African man or woman. They're
Mhm.
hoping to go to college for 4 years, uh, obtain a degree, possibly get a job or here or back in Africa. But the problem is, they're basically thrown into the wild, financially speaking,
Mhm.
even if they have a family backing.
Yeah.
It's still very difficult to adjust to the reality of how money works for a young adult in America,
Yep. Yep.
especially when you're in college. For
Yep.
example, the principles of budgeting
Hmm.
are rarely taught in high
Right.
school.
Right.
So, what kind of advice would you give that type of person uh, on day one?
Day one. So let's start with the very basics, right? In order to understand and really start to take control of your financial future, you have to know what is coming in and then what is going out. So when it comes to a budget, that's all that we're looking at, is how much money is coming in and then how much money is going out, right? And so
Okay.
the ideal situation then, when we're properly budgeting, is that there is more coming in than there is going out, right? Now, when people are overspending their budget, that's when there's more going out than there is coming in, right? And
Yeah.
so starting point then is just understanding those two very basic things. We got cash coming in and we got cash going out. Let's make sure that our cash coming in is greater than what's exiting, right? And so from there, within that, we can create a system, in a very simple way of organizing how much money is going towards different categories, rent or mortgage, maybe a car payment, insurance coverages, savings, of course, is a big thing. We're going to talk about savings a lot. And then, of course, everyday stuff, groceries, gas, daily living, things like that. So, but within the major concept, and I want people to really start with, is what's coming in and then what's going out, and then we can organize everything inside of that.
Okay. Okay. I see. So now let's say that person does get in trouble, for example. So
Sure.
they get into a situation where they acquire a whole lot of debt,
Hmm.
whether it's
Yeah.
usually it'll be a medical fee or some form, or
Sure.
a car problem, or
Hmm.
just uh, it might be actually a situation that may be completely out of their hand. For example, the coronavirus
Sure.
situation. So
Yep.
I have many friends who are still in college who haven't been able to pay what they do, so
Mm.
they've contracted debt in that way, and they are in very uncertain situations concerning the future. So
Yep.
if a person is already in that dire of a situation, what would be the steps you would recommend?
Right. So having some kind of payoff plan or structure is definitely something that is important. I think one thing that people don't realize is when you get into debt. So we'll use kind of the worst case scenario. Let's look at credit card debt, for example. Credit card debt is the worst type of debt because of the interest rate that's associated with it. So if you were to get a credit card, most credit cards interest rate is between 15 and 24%.
All right.
right? So the problem becomes is that even if you make their recommended minimum payment, it's not outpacing the interest that's growing on your money, right?
Yeah.
Which means you're never actually paying down what's called the principal, right? The actual balance you owe. All you're paying is interest.
Okay.
And so it's an endless cycle then, that unless you're able to get ahead of that and pay well over the minimum, then the actual debt does not really go down. You're just paying interest on it, right? And so that's where people really start to get in trouble. So now, of course, there are some debt forgiveness programs or loan consolidation programs where you can help with that interest rate, to lower the interest rate. But I think the big thing to really look at is, again, cash flow in, cash flow out. Is how do we put ourselves in a position to make or save more money so that we can put more funds towards that actual debt balance, right? So I think for a lot of us, and we realized this in 2020, is that we're not saving enough money and we're not making enough money, right? And this is one of the major problems that we're seeing, not just in your culture, in your community, but in communities at large, right? And if you look at the United States as a whole, I think we all recognize it doesn't matter if you make $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month, we're not saving or making enough, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think the big thing to start looking at is, if you're cash flow positive, right? If you're
Yeah.
already making, you have more money coming in than is going out, is putting more towards that debt than the minimum, right? That's a big start to the process. And if you can't do that, if you're just saying I can't put any extra to the debt, I maybe not even be able to pay at all towards it because the rest of my money has to go towards the basic necessities, paying my rent, paying for groceries, keeping myself alive, right? Those main necessities. Then you're now in a situation where what you need is more income, right? You need
Yeah.
to make more money, right? And so that's the next consideration. And I know one of the things that you mentioned for your community is there's really two paths, right? For your communities, your students, is get a 4-year degree, or I guess 3 paths total, right? You're get a degree, go back to and find a work position back in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
or full-time employment here in the United States, or the third path would be an entrepreneur, right, and start
Yeah.
your own business. And in each of those situations, there are ways to then add back to your life and back to your cash flow in order to get you ahead. But the first, simplify, right? I'll go back to simplifying. If you can pay more than the minimum, pay more than the minimum on any kind of debt. If you cannot pay more than the minimum, the next step is to look at adding cash flow to your bank, and increasing your cash flow. So
Yeah.
those are your two major steps.
I see. I see. I see. That's that's actually very good. That's very good advice. Um, so there's also another profile of individual.
Hmm.
There's those who have finished college or came here after they finished college or already have a career and uh, were sent over here to work for an international company or something like that. And they already have the means to sustain their needs and they have that extra they are prepared to
Yep.
invest,
Yep.
right? So what would you tell a first-time investor in the States to how should they allocate their capital?
Right. Great point. Okay. So now you're talking about somebody who is what we call cash flow positive. So they have more coming in than they have going out. So they're saving money now, right? They've
Yeah,
got, I, I think the starting point is, do you have an emergency fund, right? The emergency fund is immediate cash that you can access in the event of an emergency, a flat tire, um, air conditioner went out, things like that, and my recommended emergency fund starts at $7,500, because that tends to be a pretty good number for people to be able to work off of in the event of an emergency, right? You could cover a cost of a couple $1,000s if you needed to, and then you could rebuild that, right? So
yeah,
starting at that point, once you're there, then we can really start talking about where do we start allocating resources for investment purposes. And I think the first place to start there is, hey, what are your goals? Are you going to need that money quickly? Are you looking at just a retirement type vehicle or a retirement type account or investment? I think those are two quick factors, right? Is when do you need the money? So if you're looking at a retirement type vehicle, then the next consideration is how are taxes going to affect that vehicle, right? So there's two categories, right? Is really there is tax deferred, and then there is tax free, right? And so there's limitations on both, but tax deferred essentially says I'm not going to pay taxes on that money now, and I will invest the money, and then I will pay taxes when I start using the money in retirement, right? And then the other would be what we consider tax free, is you're going to pay all the taxes now on the money, then invest it, and the money does not get taxed again, right? Again, there's limitations and stipulations to all of that, but those are the two big categories to consider, especially in a retirement vehicle, right?
Okay.
Now, if you're saying, hey, I have extra cash flow and I want to use it in the next 5 or 10 years, then there are other strategies then that for investing money in higher, in categories where it's going to grow, it's going to give you a return, but then you can also access much sooner than you would a retirement vehicle. So two priorities, right? When are you going to need the money? And then how is that money going to be taxed, right? Those are the two big things that we start with.
All right. So let's discuss the entrepreneur, the young entrepreneur. Basically, most already have an idea that they want to start a business once they get in the college, or they figure that out somewhere before graduation.
Sure.
So first, there's ideas. You can find a bunch of ideas, but you also need execution.
Yep.
But the and that's that may come. But
Sure.
as far as funding, finding capital to start a business here for a foreigner
Sure.
who may or may not be a student, how do they proceed?
Great. Yeah. So that's a great point, right? And so I think we actually have the benefit now of being in a world and society where you don't need as much capital as you would think to start a business.
Okay.
And in many cases, I think starting with the entrepreneurial spirit itself is how do we take something that's already existing and then use it for our own gain, right? I'm going to give an easy example. Let's say you have something around your house, right? So I have an extra sofa around my house that I don't need. You sell the sofa on Facebook Marketplace. It was completely free for you to do that. You sell it for $100, right? You now have $100. You're going to go back to Facebook Marketplace. You're going to find something that is marked down for way cheaper than it probably should be. You're going to buy that item for the $100, and then you're going to sell it for $150, right? So that's what we call Facebook arbitrage, right?
Yes.
Is buying something at low cost, selling it for a little bit more, and making the profit, right?
Right.
So if you're like, hey, I just need quick cash. In fact, I have my brother-in-law does this often, and he made almost $10,000 last summer just by doing that, right? He would buy something for low cost. He would immediately load it into his truck, post a picture of it, and then drive it to the buyer's house, and would make quick couple $100, right? There's easy ways to start doing that, right? I think the common misconception is when you look at entrepreneurship is you need high level of capital to get started, right? And there's even plenty of opportunities now for where less than $500 you can start a legitimate business to actually get going. You don't necessarily need massive seed capital, of 100,000 or more to start a business. I think you just have to get creative, right? And so even in our industry, we offer the opportunity to work with us as an agent, both as a part and a full-time opportunity, and that all in to get started is less than $500, right? So that's like an entrepreneurial opportunity for people to join in. But then there's also, I mean, like I said, there is plenty of opportunities for people to start at a low capital But if you need that seed capital, get creative, right? Whether it's odd jobs, getting out in the community, working with your hands, or it's as simple as grabbing somebody's trash off the side of the road. You know, trash. People dump sofas and things on the side of the road all the time. Pick it up, sell it on Facebook for $100, and you're now up $100. You know, so many different ways to make money. Starts getting creative and really using that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes, yes. I'll say preach. That is the
So
righteous gospel.
now I will say this too. Let's go the opposite side, because that's like very basic. That's very basic. Like, hey, we need quick cash, and that maybe not be large amounts, right?
Yeah,
Maybe you're in a position where you're like, I know my business venture is going to cost me $50,000 to $100,000 to start. You've got the education to back it up. You have all the resources except the money, right?
yeah.
Then the thing that's going to be most valuable to you is your network, right? Is
Okay.
who do you know? Who do you know? Who can you get your idea out in front of? And who can you get to believe in and partner with you on that idea, right? And I think that's where you start to see, if you need large amounts of capital, network becomes everything, right?
Yeah. All right. All right. That makes sense. So let's say this let's say this person has the this last profile of a person who needs a large amount of capital, has the education to back it up, has the idea and the research to back it up. Where do they go to find those connections?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? I think there's, whether you're on, I mean, even social media is now a great place to start. But
Mhm.
then in person, obviously right now it's kind of weird, not being in person. But you can start looking for locally. I mean, chamber of commerce. Even right now, a lot of chamber of commerces are having um, like a weekly or monthly meeting, where the Zoom meeting, you can even get on a Zoom call and hear what's going on in the community and find people to start partnering with.
Okay.
Um, a lot of people will go to LinkedIn for professional connections, but I will say this, especially if you're on the entrepreneurial side and you've got a business idea, look for local groups that are on like Facebook, right? So a lot of actual physical groups, networking groups have a Facebook page. Go to their Facebook page, join their groups, and start interacting in their groups. That way you're becoming more known. And the more people who know you, the more opportunity there is for that seed capital to start coming in, right? So I think from building a network, for one, know what you're bringing to the table, actually bring that value to the table and provide that information or resource. You yourself provide yourself as a resource for free, so that people can then start to know who you are, what you're about, what you have to offer. And then you can start bringing in your idea of like, hey, I'm working on putting this together. I'm looking for people to, help fund my business, and then can start growing from there, right? So I think the big thing is like, you just got to get out in front of people. People got to know who you are and what you do, right? And the more you do that, the more stuff is going to come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. Now, I want to discuss trust.
Yeah.
As a foreigner, whenever you travel and go out of your comfort zone, your country,
Mhm.
you are basically at the mercy of whoever you're talking to,
Mhm.
and that creates tensions, cultural clashes, or just divisions. Point blank.
Sure.
How do how does how does an international trying to connect and create these opportunities is able to discern whether they are dealing with somebody who's genuinely trying to build with them, or somebody who's trying to prey on them?
Right. So how do you know if someone takes advantage of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think revealed a lot to us, and especially in the way of, like you said, like the divisions that has come across this year, and whether that division has been added upon by the way that media portrays things, or whether that's truly and honestly felt at the individual level.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big thing is coming to all situations with a mutual understanding. And in the business environment, it's like, how do you know somebody's taking advantage of you? I think really it starts with trying to create that mutual level of understanding. International standpoint is having conversations with people, even asking very, very upfront, what do you benefit from me working with you? Like, what are you going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And then what value, and then even asking them, like, what value are you actually providing me? And some people, if they can't provide a good reason for like how working together would be mutually beneficial, then it tends to end up being one-sided, right?
Yeah.
Where, if they say, well, you know, and even if they portray it as like, I'm just helping you and you're not benefiting me, uh, then that tends to be, there's something that's not right there. So even for like you and I right now, I'm helping to give you some information and educating you, but at the same time, this is benefiting me because I'm getting in front of a new community.
Yeah.
So more people are knowing me right now, right? So there's a mutually beneficial relationship here.
Yes.
So I genuinely want to help you and help your community, and in turn, that will help me, right? And I have a great trust, with you. Obviously, you and I have a previous relationship, right?
Yes. Yes.
We've known each other for years.
Yes.
So we have that mutual relationship and trust. But I think, kind of going back to the beginning, trying to come to a place of mutual understanding is something that's really helpful, right?
Yes.
And so I think it's easy in today's culture to start on guard. When you meet somebody new, you're kind of like hesitant and held back. Like, I gotta see what you're all about first before I like let my guard down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I can certainly understand that. But I think trying to approach new situations and new relationships from a point of mutual understanding is a great place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. That's a great answer. Well, as far as the financial conversation is concerned, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Oh yes, there's a last point that I forgot in that domain.
Mhm.
So as I was telling you before we started recording, the organization I work with, ideally this year we want to launch a scholarship,
Mhm.
right? And we have our own membership fees that we have to pay monthly that are
Mhm.
contributing to building that capital, but we want to offer our community something significant,
Yeah.
because the challenges of having to pay for tuition or books, I mean, that's for everybody, to be
Yep.
honest, not just international students.
Yep.
uh, so we're trying to kind of start building something, something sustainable in that direction. And I was thinking, uh I meant to ask you, are there any pointers you could give us to when it comes to raising funds for something of that sort?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is the question of any nonprofit is, how do we get our mission out in front of people, right? And I
Yeah.
think a big part of this, and there's actually a lot of great books on this, but you really have to become evangelical about what you do, right?
Okay.
You have to be, and when you think of like an evangelist, right? An evangelist is we most often think of it in the religious sense of, there's an evangelist, like Billy Graham or somebody who, I don't know if some people are familiar with Billy Graham, but um, who will go out and actually they preach, right? And they're
Yeah.
ministering and they're preaching in that way. But what are they doing? They're evangelizing their cause and mission. So Billy Graham's a great example. He's an evangelist for the cause of Christianity.
Mhm.
Uh, Now, likewise, Steve Jobs, who is was the founder of Apple. Steve Jobs is an evangelist for the Apple product, for the Apple mission, right? And his mission was to put a personal computer in every home, right? And not only did he put a personal computer in every home, but then now he also put a phone in every hand, right? And so they were evangelists for their cause. And so, especially within a nonprofit, is what is the cause, right? And can you be evangelical about it? So one of the big things when it comes to being an evangelist for a cause is understanding this concept is facts tell, but stories sell,
Yeah.
right? So from that standpoint of like we could spit facts about dollar amounts, numbers, things like that. But what's going to touch the heart of somebody who's going to be willing to help fund your mission and vision and cause is somebody who understands the personal side of it, the stories, so you personally, how have you been affected by your mission and cause? What's a story of somebody who has worked with your organization, and then what was the other end, right? What's the story, and how has that story benefited not just one person but communities at large, right?
Yeah.
Even from that standpoint, it's like you help international students get on their feet, whether that's here in the United States or going back home to Africa or wherever that is the work that you guys do now provides them a greater future. And you can quite literally, you and your organization can quite literally change the legacy of a family by getting them on their feet and getting them started down the right path, right? And you've probably already seen that happen, of
Mhm.
people who had no real vision for their future, maybe even no hope for their future. And you took them in and you gave them education, you gave them resources and the tools that are necessary to help them. And then they went out into the world and became successful because of that, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you can start to see the broader expanse of that, but it all comes back to, can you become evangelistic about your cause and getting those stories out in front of people? And I think that's a really important part of creating, for scholarships, for funding, for all of that, is facts are going to tell, but stories sell. And the stories are really what make the organization.
Yes. 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 I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. That'll be a great piece of advice to for me to bring to the rest of our team. Definitely. Yes. Oh, so that was great. That was some great financial advice. Does your organization have some a type of newsletter that I could recommend to our people?
Yeah, I can recommend, just our website. If you go to, and I can send all of this information to you so you can put it out in your newsletter. I can send
Perfect.
you links specifically.
Perfect. Perfect.
But yeah, if you just look up our organization, wealthwave.com, and you can do wealthwave.com/J Littauer. That's me.
Mhm.
Um, you can go find my personal website and get in touch with me there. Um, that's a great resource for sharing a little bit more about us as an organization. And and if you have an email, even if you have an email list that you want me to reach out to, I can certainly do that. We have weekly newsletters that go out with more financial information. So happy to get that in front of as many people as possible.
Perfect. 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 I believe I might have a couple of people in my address book that would be interested to reach out to you directly
Yeah,
for further information.
yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes, definitely, definitely. So I see you're still in very great shape. It seems like you haven't stopped with fitness.
I try not to. I try and stay strong, and health is a big part of what I do. And I think there's only a few resources that we can't get back, right? I only have one body, and I only have a certain amount of time, so I'm trying to take advantage of both. Make sure my body stays healthy, and I'm utilizing my time to the best of my ability.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I can testify of the discipline. If 4 years later, still looking like a stud, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
How long has it been since you last been to Laterno?
Oh, it's been, I'd say I actually spoke there for the engineering department back in 2017 or 18. So I went back a couple of years ago,
Oh, okay.
and just did a discussion, on career growth and opportunity with civil engineering department back then. So it's been a couple of years, but yeah, I still stay in touch with some people.
Oh, that's actually a great topic. There's a lot of engineers in our community, and we
Yeah,
might we might get the opportunity to also explore that topic actually, because
yeah,
uh, Actually, this is the opportunity. There's a lot of people I know who basically go to school, study engineering, but have trouble finding a job
Hmm.
after they graduate. I mean, there's all the trickery around basically being a foreign student. I mean that's understandable, but just getting internships can be a challenge at times. I
Hmm.
think I was blessed to go to Laterno, to be honest, because
Yeah.
it's such a supportive community. So I was able to find opportunities that I believe I couldn't find anywhere else. I mean, I have a lot of friends who went to other schools. I mean, some were blessed much more, but a lot of people struggled. And I was wondering, what advice do you give young engineering students?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, right, again, it's creating a network, right? It's who do you know, and who can you really leverage, right? If you're a student, you know, being in good communication and good relationship with your professors, because your professors know people,
Yeah,
and your professors know places for you to get out and start getting some real experience, And I think the hard part, especially when you're a student, is you don't have any experience, so the only thing you bring to the table is your work ethic,
yeah,
and I think that's a really big part of gaining that opportunity, and that experience itself is showing up and saying, hey, I know I don't have experience, and that's really what I'm here to gain. But I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing to get my hands dirty. I'm willing to do whatever it takes in order to gain that experience. And in that way, if you can show up to an opportunity and really prove out, hey, like, I'm going to work hard for you, and I'm really going to bring some value to your organization. If you can prove out that you can do that, opportunities are going to continue to flow from that, whether it's with that organization or the next one. All you need is really that first foot in the door.
yeah, yeah. I can definitely testify to that because I mean, before I remember there were when I got to Laterno, there was a couple of seniors because I was really, I mean, I was really the first early months I was really closed off, and I was struggling. I mean, I struggled most of the time, but I was struggling particularly at the beginning. And a couple of people gave me advice and told me the same thing. The first one is the hardest, and
Hmm.
that was true. Once I got my first internship, I mean, opportunities started coming to me, and that was great.
Yep.
And also, I mean, how much do you believe the selection of your school matters?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and here's something I'm actually really considering and thinking about as a theme for 2021 um, is being in the right place at the right time with the right people so that the right things can happen, right?
Okay.
So I think the community and the place that you go can have an effect, but I think one of the things to consider there too is you create the relationships, uh, no matter where you're at, right? So whether you're at Laterno, whether you're there in Houston, down here in Houston at like Rice University or U of H, there are people who can help you in both locations. It doesn't really matter that, like location itself, but uh, can you put yourself in a position to know those right people, right? And if you know the right people, even within, even at, let's say you're at U of H, and I'm sure you have some students there at U of H.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
There are professors and there are other students and there are people there who can help, right? Just like you and I found people at Laterno.
Yes.
There are always going to be people there, but you go out and you create those relationships. So as a student, your professors are not going to come to you. You have to go to them. You know,
Definitely not. They have
they're not.
other stuff to do.
They have other stuff to do, so they're not coming. They're not coming to you and saying, "Hey, I want to give you an opportunity," or "I want you to give me an opportunity." You as a student, that's your responsibility. You go create those relationships. Uh, but if you can do that, I don't necessarily know that this specific university matters.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Uh, Another question: How did the leadership positions that you had as a student? affected you? Like what did they teach you that's useful for you now till this day?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And you're right. So I did have several leadership positions. I was a resident assistant. I was a team lead, for engineering teams. And I always tried to put myself in a position of leadership.
Mhm.
And I think one of the big things that it teaches you is communication, right?
Yeah.
It's learning how to communicate from, communicate in front of people. It's learning how to communicate in the team environment. It's learning how to, in some ways, even be the middleman. Because a lot of times, as a leader in a leadership position, you become that middle person. If there's conflict in the team, if there's conflict in the community, you become the one that is the peacemaker to help resolve that, right? And so,
Mhm.
I think that's an important thing, and those are things that have been important in my life. Is as I learned some leadership principles, in university, and even before then, I've been on other teams and been, captain or leader on other teams as well. But the skills of conflict resolution, of casting a vision, knowing where the team is going, and then helping to then spread that amongst the team members is going to be something that's really important. So I think there's a ton of leadership principles and books and things out there that you can read and get into, but the the best thing for you is really going to be experience. So can
Mhm.
you put yourself in a position to lead and then growing through that experience?
Um, how do you deal with uh, stressful situations?
Well,
I'll say stress and conflict in your
sure.
personal life, not in a situation where you have to stand between two people, but when it
Sure.
comes to you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And honestly, we could do an entirely other podcast on this, but I think from a very simple standpoint, extreme, what I call extreme ownership, right?
All right.
Was This principle was actually taught to me by a guy named Jocko Willink in his book Extreme Ownership. So,
That's
so discipline is really discipline equals freedom, right? And level of extreme ownership is saying everything that is within my control, I will control, and then anything outside of that, I don't worry about.
all right.
So my health is under my control. I control what I eat. I control that I work out. I control how much I sleep. I control those factors, right? Uh, Now, the same with like your money, right? I control how much money I make. I control how much money I spend. I control how much money I invest, right? I'm in control of those things,
Yeah.
you know. But then there's things that are outside of your control, right? Um, I can't control the weather, So if I walk outside and it's pouring rain, I can't control the rain.
Yeah.
I can control whether or not I have an umbrella,
Yeah.
but but I can't control the rain itself, right? So for me, I think the big thing that keeps my stress level low is that anytime there's an outside situation that comes in and elevates my level of stress, I identify as quickly as possible what's in my control, and I change the things that are within my control, and I don't worry about the rest of it, right? So if I know for me, I know what activity I need to do to make more money if I need more money.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden I'm in a pinch and I know I need more money, I know exactly what activities I need to go to in order to get that money.
Yeah.
And then I don't worry about the rest of it.
There
So
you go.
it's controlling what you can control and then letting the rest of it go.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I appreciate the great conversation. I know you probably have a lot to do today. You're a busy person.
Well,
So,
I appreciate it, man. I thank you so much for having me on. I love getting to do this. I love, being able to, hopefully provide some level of value to your community
oh yeah,
and be able to help you guys. And so if there's anything that I can do, please reach out, have your community reach out. I would love to be able to help, uh, you know, and especially if you're in the community listening to this right now and you would like to connect with me, when you reach out and connect, please just let me know that you heard of me or heard from me on this podcast or through Kofi, and that would be helpful to me. That way, I already have a connection, and I can start helping you even more from there.
perfect, perfect, perfect. And I believe we'll probably get the opportunity to have another podcast with a smaller group of people.
Hmm.
I mean, a bigger group of people, and get some more diverse questions for you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would certainly look forward to that.
Definitely, definitely. You have a great day. It was really cool to see you again.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
since we're here, and we need to have an entire Flutters podcast. If we can make that
We
happen,
should.
that'll be the funnest thing ever.
That would be fun. That would be a good time. It'd be fun to have everybody back together.
Yeah, definitely,
So
definitely. All right.
awesome.
You have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
No problem.